Welcome to the Cannacurio Podcast, powered by Cannabis Media. I'm your host, Ed Keating, and on today's show, we're joined by Coleman Retzlaff, National Sales Director at Quest Climate. Coleman, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about your professional background. Like, how did you find your way, well, I guess first into Quest, but also into the cannabis space? Because we all have our own unique journeys, I've learned through this podcast.
Yeah, and a journey it has been. I think without belaboring it too much, really. So Thermistore is the name of the company that manufactures the
Right.
Quest brand, and we manufacture, basement and crawl space dehumidifiers in one channel and flood restoration equipment in another channel here, all under that Thermistore umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at a 19-year anniversary in August with Thermistore.
Wow. Congrats.
And so it's been a bit of a path of opportunity really for me. I originally came over kind of on the service side of things as a tech advisor, troubleshooting on the phone, and then an opportunity as quality manager in our manufacturing operations for a number of years, and then got into sales on kind of the technical training aspect years ago. The predecessor to Quest today did a number of things, and temporary building heat was one of those things with electric or diesel fired hydronic. And so we got into pest control during the bed bug epidemic, and then construction rental with a lot of our portable equipment. So that had me going all over the U.S. And then, I think shortly after the recession, kind of went back to quality manager for a while, and the opportunity came to join the ag team, and it was really, truly a blessing for me. I went to one trade show, and I said, "These are my people. I've got something to contribute here," and it's been a great journey, and I think that was almost 9 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's, I've been in the cannabis space a little bit longer. We started in 2015, but it's interesting. You go to trade shows and you really do get to see, what people are concerned about, what they're excited about. So, certainly in role as national sales director, is that the place where you connect with growers and operators in the cannabis industry?
Well, we, as the Quest team, from a boots on the ground standpoint, trade shows is one aspect where we can connect at all levels, whether it's, at the grower level, building maintenance, the manufacturing side, to the owners, investors, but on a weekly basis, we are out in the field, working with the resellers of our equipment. We directly are into cultivation facilities, providing consultation on existing equipment, as well as new build out opportunities.
Yeah.
Trying to provide direction and sizing, and making people aware of that value proposition and an ROI on equipment, along with understanding, what humidity control does for the plant, and bringing success to the growers.
Awesome. Well, sort of digging into sort of the Quest climate overview. You guys are known for your expertise in environmental control. So, what sets what you guys do apart from others in the industry when it comes to, let's say, dehumidification or climate control systems? Because, I'm sure there are others that are doing what you guys do, but, to tell me how you guys stand out and compete in this space.
Yeah, I think it's a story of similar but different, or that difference in being an industry leader from an innovation side of things. Early on, it was Quest identifying the need for high efficiency, large capacity dehumidification in cultivations, where we came in and people were running a lot of small Chinese, Korean made dehumidifiers that really weren't built for this high capacity
Right.
load that's expected on equipment. So we were kind of the first large capacity dehumidifier in the space. First to say, hey, let's hang this overhead, get it off the floor. That's valuable real estate, and that's where we're able to
Oh,
be
great.
most effective pulling moisture out of the air when we're mounted above the heat load of the lighting.
Interesting. So it sounds to me too that as you went into this particular vertical, you had all these other historical places where you'd already had success in sort of large scale. I mean, this is an overused expression, not your first rodeo, but for Thermistor, you guys have been doing this for a long time. So this was merely what we said when we created Cannabis Media. It is simply an agricultural vertical, right?
Yeah, I mean, so when we started, yes, we were able to pull some products that fit the space, and we found out, some things worked, some things didn't. So when you look at over time, the change in our equipment, tailoring things more towards the cultivation space, the
Mhm.
voice of the customer, what's important to growers, and the biggest difference here that's worth highlighting is from an innovation standpoint is the introduction of our M-Core refrigeration system. It's a
Hmm.
multi-coil refrigerant recovery is the fancy word for it. That
Okay.
it's a patented system, and there hasn't been a new patent in refrigeration in decades, and it basically lets us be head and shoulders above our closest competitor, being more energy efficient, pulling more water per kilowatt hour out of the air, and that directly affects the pocketbook of our customers, being able to pull more margin dollars out of every pound grown.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you how important is it to do that, and you answered the question because yeah, that's absolutely spot on, and especially the margin pressure in some markets, I can imagine that is super important to your customers, and as you referenced, the voice of the customer and the pocketbook of the customer, super important things to be sensitive to in the current market. Thinking about the technology and innovation of Quest, one interesting angle is, are there common mistakes that cultivators make when it comes to environmental controls? Like you mentioned earlier, at the outset of the industry, people were just getting inexpensive, inappropriately sized hardware for the space. But are there other common mistakes that you're seeing? Because you've got a long time in this space.
Yeah, and I think you hit on it. Is the most common thing is undersizing for the dehumidification load necessary in the cultivation rooms. Um, so and that's a lot of pressures either between education. Selling dehumidification is really a highly educational sell. It's not just buying a box off the shelf, thinking it's going to do it all. There's some math behind it, and although it's very simple math, it can be either very easily overlooked or financially impacted by somebody wanting to limp in, or they just don't want to spend the money type of thing. Quest is there's a value proposition to that innovation and energy efficiency. So we aren't the cheapest solution, but there's the saying, buy once, cry once, because we do see a number of people going out trying to buy some of the cheap Chinese solutions that are coming into the market now. And it's a lot of those stories have ended with, boy, we thought we were getting a deal and now we're ripping everything out and buying Quest. So
Yeah,
it's a cautionary tale at that.
it always takes me back to the local pizzeria at my hometown. You've tried the rest, now try the best.
Yeah.
um, One thing in reading about Quest are some of the features that you have introduced, like intuitive dashboard, self diagnostics, remote error code visibility. I'm assuming that helps people who may be running some of these operations maybe remotely or with a skinny down staff, because some of these indoor grows are sort of highly technologically run.
Yes. So when Quest came into the space, we very much carried a mentality of keep it simple, dump truck technology, mechanical things don't fail. And we've, again, it's voice of the customer. We've moved on and we've introduced, digital controls, an improved user interface. Beginning to incorporate some of those things like, hey, let's let the customer know when they need to change their filter. It's definitely one of the failures of many cultivations is not changing their filter frequently enough, and restricting that airflow can impact their performance. But then also introducing some things that, from a diagnostic standpoint, can we create error codes that might help steer somebody towards the solution from a troubleshooting standpoint, or at the very least, give our service technicians on the phone with the customer some feedback to be able to say, here, we'd like you to try A, B, and C. And if it's A and B, this is something that you can handle yourself and avoid paying, a service call. But if it's C, well, maybe we've got a more impactful statement requesting more professional help or assistance in resolving, a mechanical issue, or, if it's sealed system related, which those are the components that hold the refrigerant in. Those are things our customers aren't going to be able to handle themselves.
Got it. Well, it's interesting because it seems like in terms of bringing out those enhancements, it's a little bit of that crawl, walk, run. Don't, as you said, truck technology in and sort of bludgeon people with it. And now you're meeting them where they're at, where they do need it, or they require it, or maybe they even demand it. So that's pretty cool. Thinking of the technology stack, and this is something I deal with on the data side. I'm curious if the infamous AI, artificial intelligence, is having any impact on what you guys do, or sort of any demands from your customers in terms of what they're looking for.
Well, we do see it as companies begin to incorporate higher level building management controls or grow controls that aren't just looking at temperature and humidity. They're looking at temperature, humidity, lighting. They're taking measurements at the canopy to understand vapor pressure at any given time, and wrapping that into a single dashboard system. So those are usually third-party systems that are, and I hear this more and more, trying to create more predictive setups as it comes to how they control their environment, what their nutrient regimen is, what the lighting levels are, and how a plant reacts differently. Sometimes, by strain. Some of them play nicely together and others act very differently under the same conditions. And really just trying to dial that in to create the greatest yield outcomes. Trying to find, again, the secret sauce everybody's after, to make things repeatable, and be able to gauge future looking production.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's also a crawl, walk, run thing. I mean, it's easy to spout the buzzwords, but if you're taking in insights from all those different metrics, it can be useful to have sort of one ring to rule them all, or one interface to help you make sense of it. One of the other areas that I was curious about is around the space of sustainability. In this podcast, I've talked to people who are on the packaging side over the years, and a lot of talk about sustainability and also energy efficiency. And when you and I last spoke a couple months ago, I told you that we're going to Cannabis Europa, and to see sort of what that market was like. And you said that you guys had already been to Europe. There was opportunity there. One thing that we found out was in Germany, there was only one cultivator because apparently the cost of electricity and energy is so high there that it just doesn't make sense. So, is that an impact for your company as you figure out sort of where you can go in, Europe and I guess in the States too. But, does that energy factor come in, and how big a piece of that, I guess, is it in the decision making of your clients?
Absolutely. So, I mean, Quest is an international, a global brand that we are selling to international markets. Having a a green view on what we do, and a striving to lessen the carbon footprint, the impact that our equipment and operation, understanding that total cost of ownership side of things, hits on a couple of different things. I mean, the low hanging fruit is the whole energy efficiency thing. If we pull more water out of the air per kilowatt hour than anybody else, that alone is a steering value proposition for most of our customers to understand they're going to spend less electricity to go through their operations.
Yep.
But because we're pulling water out of the air, we also have that ability to reuse that condensate water in a lot of areas that might be have water scarcity types of issues. We've even begun, exploring kind of, the whole idea of atmospheric water generation for potable, drinkable water. So there's that's definitely a guiding principle to what we do. Myself and all of my sales reps are LEED Green certified. So, I mean, it was important enough for us to go through that process of certification for us to be able to speak intelligently and work with the engineering community as it comes to, the design of facilities and how we can contribute to impacting this world of ours less.
Interesting. So in addition to, let's say, energy efficiency and sustainability, what are some of the other operational challenges that cultivators are facing right now? And I'm wondering, does it vary by market? Like, we hear a lot about Michigan, where the price has gone so low that it's almost unsustainable. Same thing in other places where there's moratorium. But I'm just sort of curious, from your standpoint, what are some of those challenges that the cultivators are dealing with?
Well, I look at it, in a multitude of different ways, and how our industry has kind of morphed over time. And I think that leads with some of the government related side on banking and descheduling. Has been a constraint on the industry here, over the last, forever. It's been a constraint. But kind of that toying with it has made things a bit more difficult. And then you have the systematic adoption of medical or recreational laws in individual states, and how those individual states choose to, write their laws. And it always seems like every state says, I can do it better than everybody that's done it before, and I don't have lessons to learn. So we've seen a lot of gold rush markets like Oklahoma, and a lot of very restrictive slow rollout markets, like New Jersey and New York has been a very slow
Georgia and Alabama,
and then a lot of good old boy markets like Florida and Illinois, and unless you had the bankroll or the pedigree, you weren't getting a license.
Good point.
So, yes, there are a lot of challenges. And I think at the end of the day, again, the lowest common denominator is in the state that you're operating in. What are the pricing pressures that apply to your ability to get top dollar for the product that you're producing?
Yeah. And at the lowest cost, like I'm thinking here in Connecticut, one state north of us is Massachusetts, and the town of Springfield was touting themselves as kind of a cannabis mecca, because I think they've got their own hydroelectric plant there that the town I'm going to say controls. That may not be the right word, but they have a really low price per kilowatt hour, and that's really appealing to people because it is a factor, in your pricing. Land, labor, and capital. If you can manage that, that can be a big leg up on other places in the state. So, and if it ever goes, to your point, beyond these state boundaries that we're constrained by now. Once again, looking back at your customers, and this is a question that I often ask in the podcast, which is, we know obviously that cultivators are your main market, but how does that differ as you go one level down, like craft growers versus MSOs? I dare say home growers. I don't know if they're a big piece, but how does that factor into the decision making that you do, especially just, obviously running the sales team?
Well, so, Quest, sometimes is accused of being commercial. And although, yes, we do that well, we also do manufacture, very small dehumidifiers. So, we can be very much right for many different home growers. So we've got a little something for everybody. And, our two market strategy, really, it exemplifies that with our relationships with the retailers. So the local grow store that you have has access to Quest equipment, and they're able to help you build out a room in your home, or they have relationships with craft growers, and they can bring us in to help with a recommendation based upon the design of those small to mid-tier grows to the MSOs that are working with consultants and mechanical engineering teams. And I like to think that my team possesses that ability to speak all of those languages, from the grower to the mechanical engineer to the investor, to be able to really, hone in on not only what Quest does from a horticulture aspect in having plants thrive in their climate, but also, what does that ROI look like
Right.
in choosing Quest over somebody else? What's that payback period look like? How do we rope in, what that cost per kilowatt hour is in your area? And something that's been more and more prominent over the last number of years is how many power companies are participating and awarding rebates on choosing Quest equipment. So, you're buying a dehumidifier and they are giving you hundreds of dollars back on every dehumidifier because they see that you're choosing to pay more for something that's going to save electricity. So having less of an impact on the grid and the power available in every state has a financial back end to it.
It's interesting you mentioned that. We actually have a dashboard in our product that I think it tracks the power company to the license holder across the U.S. and people use it. I think it's mostly a rebate tool just to sort of see what the coverage is and who they need to go after. So maybe we can talk about that after we wrap up. One of the other questions that I came across in my research is, are companies in your space moving to subscription-based climate control services like I want to say it like climate as a service, if you will? Is that a thing yet, or is that just some fun buzzword to throw around?
I don't know that it's necessarily a thing yet. What I would say on a subscription basis would be not necessarily from Quest, but the the HVAC companies that cultivators are working with. I encourage cultivators to have a strong relationship with their HVAC company, buying into that service plan, understanding that, when equipment fails, I guarantee you it's your daughter's birthday or your anniversary, and what are you going to choose? having them on call, the subscription service probably falls into a regular maintenance, things like changing filters, so that you've got somebody not necessarily paid for on your team, but a third party that's coming in, helping you with regularity, making you aware of any deficiencies that they see. It's the eyes and ears that are more trained than the people usually on our team as it comes to understanding the operation of air conditioning and dehumidification,
Yeah.
as a helpful tool.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. So, sort of, speaking of a little bit of the go-to market, one selfless question I want to ask is, you guys have been subscribers to Cannabis Media for a while. How do we help you, bridge that gap between Quest and the marketplace in terms of, maybe finding new customers or watching where markets are growing, contracting?
Yeah, absolutely. So Cannabis Media has had a lot of tools that have been very helpful for us. So regularly being able to identify an area, be able to select your target, and be able to send out emails, whether it's providing notice of a new piece of equipment, or consultations available, or hey, just meet your regional rep. Here's a phone number so that the day you need it, you've got a little something to lean upon. The data that your team has been able to provide, with appropriate contacts and verified phone numbers and emails, allows us to reach out directly. And a lot of times this is falls under sometimes investigatory side of things. We're aware of a project and the leads go quiet, and we know there's this opportunity there. Well, maybe I can get in with somebody on the purchasing side or the master grower and just say, hey, Quest is here if you need a little help. We'd like to help
Yeah.
you over the finish line, and show you. Again, it's highly educational. So sometimes if you don't have that opportunity to be able to have a conversation, all they're looking at is price. And
True.
how many mistakes are made when we just look at price and we don't understand the big picture and the values that are brought, by a premium piece of equipment, with a trustworthy name like Quest has developed in the industry.
Well, I love your point from earlier. Buy once, cry once. I'm going to remember that, and now I'm going to I'm going to give you credit for it. Hat tip on that one. So in terms of sort of forward looking and future looking, anything on the horizon for Quest Climate, like new introductions you can talk about? I mean, nothing that's not public, but just new technologies, expansions, or maybe projects that are coming in 2025 or beyond.
Yeah, I briefly mentioned the M-Core technology in our system, and that's probably the biggest thing for 2025. The government, the EPA, mandated an update to the refrigerants being used, and they do this like every 15 years or so, and they just kind of say, hey, we need to take the next step to be less ozone depleting, less greenhouse gas emission related. So here's the new types of refrigerants that you can build equipment with. So we've done a complete redesign of all of our equipment to incorporate these new refrigerants, to be able to implement that M-Core refrigeration system across our full equipment portfolio. So we've got a lot of new things that if you haven't really spoken to or dove into Quest, in the last 6 months, it's a different game. Fortunately, with this changeover, we've also been able to do some tweaks and tunes to some designs. So we've gained some energy efficiency across most of our models. Still the world's most energy efficient dehumidifier has jumped around in our catalog over time as we've continued to innovate. Beyond that, we do have some new portable equipment that should be coming out in the next couple of months. And again, it's just finding the right tools for the right application. We oftentimes think of your dehumidifiers as permanently installed in your room, but there are some opportunities for portable equipment, which is more, in the last couple of weeks, I can roll this in and get, even lower with my relative humidity. Or if I do have a mechanical issue, I've got a bit of a safety blanket with, I got the unit in that maintenance room that I can pull out and plug in and take the edge off while I get a service repair coordinated.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. So, Coleman, if you had one piece of advice for cultivators looking to improve their grow environment, what would it be?
To be perfectly honest with you, it would be to talk to us.
Yeah.
And I try and relay to people that, and this is why we've loved working for Quest, because it is highly consultative, because it is highly educational, because it is a holistic look at not just what the dehumidifier is going to do, but how the facility operates and how your choice of air conditioning and some of those things that impact the outcomes and what your goals are. Things have to be designed around, what is that condition you want to be able to hold, late in flower with cool temperatures, and how that impacts the performance of equipment. Having that consultative approach is one where I believe my team educates you into a sale. We aren't a high pressure sales organization. It's very much, I believe that if I have the opportunity to talk to you and show you what my equipment can do and the energy savings, I've led the horse to water. And I believe that I'll win your business based upon that alone.
Yeah, well, it really sounds like, when working with Quest, you not only get the hardware, but you get the team and the expertise that you all bring. So perhaps you could tell our listeners what's the best way to connect with you or to learn more about Quest Climate.
So you're always welcome to call in to our main line. It's 1-877-420-1330. That's 1-877-420-1330. Or you can just send us an email at sales@questclimate.com. That's sales@questclimate.com.
Excellent. Well, I love how you have the 420 in there, and thank you for explaining a rather technical topic in a way that I really came away with a lot, and I'm sure the rest of our listeners will as well. So looking forward to seeing you at an upcoming trade show, Coleman.
Thanks for the invitation. I truly enjoyed the conversation, Ed.
Excellent.